6:38, I call this meeting of the General Government and Public Safety Committee to order. I know attendance has been taken. Any comments from citizens? Closing and moving on. Police Department, there's an activity report in your packet. Chief, is there anything you want to point out?
Well, we gotten one of our two cars that were down. We're still waiting on parts and update on that, but we did get one of those back. So that's kind of been an issue for us. We've had a couple of complaints on officers this past month, and they were investigated. Tara's got the findings on those. It's a personnel issue. You guys got questions, I'll answer those and, off to the side, but, those, like I said, those have been investigated, stuff given to Tara. Traffic, you'll probably start seeing the traffic, trailer back out again. We've had it kind of tucked back in the back just because of weather and that kind of stuff, but that'll get back out there pretty quick. Other than that, unless y'all have questions on anything else.
Any questions for the Police Department? Hearing none, moving on to the Fire Department. Activity reports in your packet. Debbie, is there anything you'd like to point out?
No, we just going over vehicles and had to replace a few batteries in trucks, and it kind of got quiet there in January on the medical call, but it's now picked back. Nothing special.
Any questions for the Fire Department? Moving on to other public safety, emergency management. Is there anything, Tara?
No, I believe all of our, I believe all of our radio licensing has been updated and taken care of, so we're back on board with that. I did receive a letter, but I'm pretty sure they crossed in the mail, so I'm gonna be checking with, Stanford just to make sure that was taken care of.
Anything for protective inspection? Moving on to economic development, Chamber of Commerce reports. One of the reports in your packet. Anything you guys would like to point out?
Is this when we,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, okay. I don't know if these are in the package or not, but I'll pass these around. I don't know, the cut and dry of it is we're requesting, right now our partnership with the city is what it has been for years and years and years, and I know that contract is up for renewal. And so we're here to request a bigger partnership from the aldermen. We are very excited about where the chamber's going. We're very excited about key things going on in the chamber and stuff that we're going to update. And we're really excited about hiring a new director. The biggest sticking point that we've had so far is the salary and the benefits. So we've got a couple outline ideas of where we want to go, what we want to do. But the biggest thing is increasing economic development for the city. We know that there's not a representative of that right now for the city, and we kind of, I guess, more or less want to take on that responsibility and help out with that part of it. And there's a couple different ways we can do that. We can either increase the partnership that we've got now, where the city is covering some of the salary for the director of the Chamber of Commerce, or kind of a 50-50 deal where we split that with the city and increase the economic development that we would like to see, and that the city, I believe, would like to see through that. So, we don't really have anything exact that we're looking for, but we want to start that discussion and see where we're at. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, just the economic development part. We're already working with Boone County Ready, a representative from Columbia Ready. They've chosen Centralia for the September meeting, their September meeting, so that's huge that they're starting to recognize that they need to come up north. We also are working with a group out of Mizzou, specifically on economic development, and that's something the chamber has taken on. So we meet with them monthly, and I've talked to Tara, I've talked to Dr. Chancellor with the school district. So we've got lots of things coming up this semester with Mizzou.
Yeah, we should have a bunch of information coming from that. Really, I don't know if you guys have got any questions or not. The biggest reason that we're looking for this, over the last couple of years, we've lost roughly $40,000 due to canceled events, Anchorfest not even running 1 year. You know, there's just been so many hits due to COVID, and we're trying to bring that back up, and we're trying to increase the activities that we do, the fundraisers we do, the business that we bring into Centralia. We feel like has gotten kind of stagnant, and we're, like Hillary said, we're working with Columbia Ready, or Boone County Ready and Columbia Ready to increase that, and they're excited. I mean, we had a meeting with them, the last board meeting, and they're just as fired up as we are about bringing new business to town and making those connections with new business. So that's where we're at.
Question, you say that, I heard you have a couple of different options, right, that you could do potentially with this position, and how you want to advance that role, and I think maybe new frontiers with it, sounds like to me, expanding that role. So are you picturing this as a full-time position, potentially, with one of those options? With us sharing that, and what the, what that breakout would be for economic development versus chamber business through the week, and how many hours,
Right.
Average, that kind of thing?
We absolutely would. We absolutely think that there's enough work there to be a full-time position, especially if we include economic development with the city. Our biggest challenge right now is benefits. Everybody wants benefits. You know, when you try to pull in good quality personnel, benefits is what we look at, or what they look at. And that was kind of the point of the partnership potential. If it is considered a city employee, not a city employee, full-time, part-time, really kind of dictates how we go down that road. But that's why we left it open as a potential option to look at. It was kind of an idea that we had thought of, and just wanted to throw it out there and see.
I just want to make sure it's clear about it. I thought that's kind of what.
Right,
What
right.
that-
So it's a salary thing, but it's also a benefit thing for most people, so.
Got you.
So right now, the city gives the chamber some money each year.
Mhm.
If this were to be a city employee, how much does the chamber support that position? Do you guys have a dollar figure that you figured it could be in your budget that you think you'd be able to support?
Well, current salary was just a little over 16,000 is where Jenny Zollers had been for years. So we know that we've got that part, well, we believe we've got that part. Due to the lost funds over the last couple of years, we're still, jockeying stuff around and trying to figure that exact number out, but we believe it's around that $15,000-16,000 mark.
And we are looking at, the chamber is looking at ways to increase both dues revenue, membership revenue, and non-membership revenue. Just in the past, let's see, what is today, the 13th of February, so in 2 weeks, we've had about 7 new businesses join the chamber. So we're looking at, there's our membership revenue, non-membership revenue, we're looking at different events to have. We're talking to people about sponsorships of events. So we are working it on our end to try to get the budget up where it needs to be. So we're hustling.
Right. So you all have explored the sponsorship of, gold, bronze, that kind of thing? for certain
Absolutely,
events?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they would be premier businesses in those events.
Yeah, and looking at.
Y'all had talked about that to us, I mean.
Yes,
good idea.
yeah. And looking at nearby chambers, of course, the closest ones are a little bit bigger towns than we are, but their fees have adjusted so much more than ours have over the past 10 years. Actually, our fees have stayed the same as far as I believe in that amount of time. So our fees are going to go up, but the benefits are also going to go up for the businesses that do join the chamber. There's going to be a lot more that we include them in. And then, of course, the sponsorship tiers are gonna change too, on how we adjust those and offer those out to local business. So that's about it. That's what we got.
Any questions?
Like what you wanna do.
Yeah, we're,
Really like what you guys are laying out, just dollars and cents.
right,
That's
absolutely,
the world we're in right now.
absolutely.
Well, we're definitely open for discussion, and I know I've already talked to Tara about our contract is up in March. So I don't know if we're under the gun to get something signed, or we have some time to chat, I don't know, you guys just.
Well, I think you
let
gotta
us
work
know.
out a business plan, right? I mean, it
Right.
sounds like you got a couple ideas,
Yeah,
which are great, but now you gotta formulate those into a business plan that would have a return on investment and where the time would be spent and how that be appropriated and option A, option B, because of benefits, right?
yeah,
As a city employee, you gotta work through who do they report to, how does that reporting chain look, those kind of things. So think about all of that as you all look at that. I know you will, but I'm just saying, I think we've gotta get to that point till we know what the dollars and cents are and what the value is. Or we would, to sell the value to us as part of
Sure.
it, correct? Does that make sense?
yeah,
Absolutely.
One idea that Hiller and I just discussed briefly was the chamber's in quite a bit of disorganization at the moment, trying to get things figured out from where it's been in the past, get it organized so they can figure out where they're going in the future. With their contract ending at the end of March, usually it's signed for 3 years. Would you guys entertain an option to extend it for 1 year until they could get on their feet and figure out what's going on, and we could work through a plan?
I'd be open to even do something that has a quarterly type thing that's automatic, renews each quarter until we come up with something else. I mean, if we could come up, I'm open to flexible, and
that'd be great.
we know there's some change coming, we just don't know what it looks like
Right.
yet.
We know that
It's not
economic
pigeonhole
development could be,
ourselves.
would be beneficial to everybody, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a,
Treat it as an evergreen quarterly type thing with a quarterly payout or whatever. I mean, that would be a way to allow some flexibility, but still have
That's a
something
great
there.
idea.
With a set end line down the road, whether it's a year to begin with, for a year we do a quarterly thing, I don't know. Spitballing a little bit, but I think it would allow flexibility.
We also did, in researching, kind of going back and seeing how everything was working through the chamber, we realized that Jenny was doing a lot on the back end. There was actually, so wherever there were shortcomings, a lot of it had to do with our yearly, the biggest event that we put on was Anchorfest. And moving forward with that, as a board, we decided, since we were having so much trouble hiring a director, we were gonna hire a director just for Anchorfest. So now Anchorfest has its own director. She is in charge of it 100% throughout the year. We give her a stipend, and she kind of takes that part of it. So that in itself will open up more room for the director to share that responsibility between economic development and the Chamber of Commerce. So it's a huge role. I mean, I don't know how in the world she did it for so many years on her own. She obviously had a lot of help and volunteers and stuff like that, but that in its own has just been one of the biggest things that we've had to figure out. And we've hired Brittany Harper. She's our new Anchorfest director. She's taking over for this year, so if there's any questions or anything on that, we send you directly to her. But it'll be above and beyond that. So we don't think that we're going to combine those two again. We think that'll be separate yearly because it is such a big responsibility. So. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Moving on to the park board. There's an agenda in your packet. And meeting minutes. Any questions or comments? Moving on to the library board. Agenda and minutes are in your packet. Any questions or comments? Cemetery board, anything, Tara?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Anything for tree board?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Bills over $1,250, it's on page 27 of the PDF. Any questions or comments? Moving on to financial statements. Tara, is there anything you want to point out?
I'll defer to Marilyn since she's here. If there's anything she had.
Marilyn, anything you'd like to point out?
Nothing out of the ordinary. Certainly been nice the last couple of months to see the real estate versus property taxes roll in. Nice deposits. But nothing else really out of the ordinary.
Okay, great.
Are we receiving about what we thought we would, or?
We are, as compared to last year, I don't know how it compares to previous, but
Comparable to what we had in our budget for this year?
Comparable. Comparable.
All right, moving on to fireworks display.
Okay. Let me get to it. 'Cause I
It's
didn't
on
grab
page
the paper.
7.
Got it. All right, so, this is the same company that we've been using. Last year we had to, I believe, Deming,
Yep, what the training.
the training, so that we could still have our own fireworks.
Demi and Donnie, I believe.
Deming and
Donnie,
Downs.
yeah.
Okay.
Donnie Rogers.
So we do pay a little bit more just so we can have, for that coverage, so that Myrma will allow us to set up our own fireworks display. Question. So usually we don't pay for them until closer, but if we pay for them, if we decide we wanna go ahead and use Premier Pyrotechnics again, and we pay for them by March 1st, we get an additional 10% in product. Another option that we can do is if we sign an agreement with them for 3 years, we get an extra 5%, and then if we decide by December 1st of every year, we get an additional 15% extra product, so we get extra 20% of product every year for July 4th if we decide we wanna.
Had a good thing going.
You gave it to me, so.
It's been like that forever.
I
Well,
think we've done that before when we signed a multi-year agreement.
Yeah.
that they
Have
give
we
us
signed a
extra
multi-year
product.
agreement?
Correct.
Yeah.
Do we currently have one with them?
Well, I think it's up every so often, you know.
Yeah, I think it's been a couple of years since we talked about
It
it.
used to be J&M, and then we went to
Premier.
Premier.
So.
But they all do that, they all want you to pay in advance, so they know roughly what,
It cuts their
how
risk.
the Chinese are gonna let us have or whatever, I don't know.
Well, they got limited space, I mean, it's like four stories at a time.
So if, I guess if they're not a sole provider, so we may have to go out. I don't know how that, we've done that in the past for
Our training was our training through them though?
It was, so we'd have to
we'll
go
have
for
the same
training
way
with a
we have-
different company.
Right. So if we've got people that are certified under this blanket, I think maybe we
We
could.
could check with Williams Keepers and make sure we wouldn't get dinged on it, but, yeah, so. Do we want to do the 3-year contract and make a decision on our fireworks before December 1? So we can do it now for this year's and then before December 1 for 24, if we want to.
Or we do the 3-year now and
Well, we could make the decision if we want to sign the 3-year contract, just to get the extra 5% for the next 3 years,
Then next year, pay it before December
Right.
1 and get 15%.
Right.
the extra, yeah, so
Yeah,
then.
so we'd only get 15 this year, but then we get 20% in the future.
Yeah,
Well,
It is
ask
exciting.
ask them this year if we do a 3-year with them, can we get the 15% this year too?
well, it would be, because we get 10%, plus we're signing the deal, and that's a 5%, so
There
we
you
get
go.
15,
There you
so.
Well, that amounts to about 4 or 5
go.
more.
These Chinese fireworks are not real expensive, I mean, anytime they give you 10 for, you know,
You make an extra special finale. I don't know.
But the thing is, we've been getting that
You-
extra the last couple times we've done
But they
it.
say what they do, they raise the price, so you really, you end up even,
Yeah,
is all you're doing,
of
really.
course.
But it sounds so much better.
It's a numbers game, is all it
Right,
is.
exactly.
They're gonna make their profit no matter what.
All right, so we have an ordinance for next week?
I say sign me
Fireworks?
free, in
Okay.
future
Yeah.
years, we pay by December 1st.
I'm locking in for 3, you don't have to bid.
Good with that.
And now on to discussion, utility rate increase.
So, sorry. So the city of Centralia, along with several other towns in Missouri, have the agreement with NextEra that prevents our utility rates from being raised until the year 2030. So we have this nice little umbrella protecting us from everything that's going on around us. The problem is that by the year 2030, they are projecting utility rates to be upwards of 40% higher than what they are now. Obviously, we would not want to do that to our residents, so I'm proposing that we consider for discussion utility rate increases for the electric.
We also need some significant investments in our electric, so it's not like the money would be going
It would
to
not be
waste. It
going to
would keep us
waste.
from having to borrow $1 or $2 million or whatever it's gonna be.
Correct, so the electric infrastructure that we would be looking at that would benefit from this in between, would be, we could start putting money towards the electric substation that needs to be replaced. We already know that it was, correct me if I'm wrong, was it $1.2 million the last time we did it?
I'm remembering it was something over $1 million
Mm-hmm.
that we had to borrow. I mean, that's what we borrowed.
I don't remember. Yes, it would have been, oh wait, it's gonna be dramatically more expensive now to replace that. So, we do need to start looking at replacing that. It's already out of date and we need to take care of that. So that would assist us with that. Also, all materials, as we've been discussing, are quite a bit more expensive, transformers. Quite a bit more expensive. So, we just need to discuss what we want to do there and how much. Because this, obviously, everyone is hurting with prices and increases, and so we're gonna discuss this as much as possible, make sure we make the right decision.
We figure 40% in 7 years, I mean, that's a steep increase every year. I mean, to get them, it's 5 or 6% increase every year just to be at that point. But again, we do a $1 million to $2 million project we gotta do also, so it would help us not borrow as much.
So I just wanted to get that on the
you know,
radar.
I mean, you know, the unfortunate thing is we live in a world today, that prices and costs are going up, and they're not going to come back down like they have in the past, when we've seen oil go to $100 a barrel, $110 a barrel, then you see it come back 50% on thermoplastics or anything, new plastics made it as a package that your chicken comes in at the store or whatever. The price of the pump is what we see, but the cost is in materials, diesel fuel for trains, trucks, and then the cost of anything that's made of a barrel of oil, which is anything plastic. There's poly in it that comes from a barrel of oil. So, those costs are gonna go up, so I think we have to start to proactively look to the future. We've been blessed with some pretty good contracts that are expiring now, and that really puts us under the gun. We've been in a pretty favorable position as a city for several years, and we're now at a point that we're gonna have to step up and think proactively 3, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road even, and how do we stay ahead of the game? You know, we don't always own our own infrastructure as far as the streets, you know, the sewers, the water, and I think we've done a really good job of that. But with everything going up, like I said in the meeting the other night, you know, the transformers going up from $1,000, $1,100 to triple that cost now, if you can get them, and when you can get them. They'll come back down some, but they're not just what, $2,500 is a deal, it's not for us, right? I mean, it's just a huge increase, and so budget-wise, as much as I as a citizen, we as a citizen want to keep the cost down as much as possible, we also got to protect and make sure we have a town and services in place that are above. So that's something we're gonna have to be able to talk to and speak to as we talk about what we're doing with the city, I think, moving forward, right? It's tough times right now.
And we will have the option of, every town that we're in this agreement with is feeling the benefit of this, so more than likely, those towns will still want to build this contract again with NextAir and Ameren. So we could still be able to bargain really good rates for the city. We just, we don't know what they're gonna be.
But if market's up 40%, we're not gonna keep our rates the same.
It will not stay the same, no.
Well, and we don't want to get to the end of the road here and have a huge spike that the citizens can't, I mean, it puts them in
They're not
economic
gonna be able
peril.
to absorb it.
And it's not that the money's not needed for the infrastructure.
Mhm.
You know, we're talking long term, you know, everything we're hearing in the electrical market, the government's continuing to invest with probably at least another decade where resources are gonna be tight with the infrastructure investments that are going on. That's just a fact. Especially, I know we talked about underground equipment not too long ago. What do you think's going into California right now with all the fires they've had over the last several years? They're gonna continue to invest, and that stuff's gonna get more and more expensive. We're gonna have to be proactive as hard as it is, and it hurts every single one of our budgets, personal budgets.
If we decide to increase, will that interrupt the contract that we have?
No.
Okay.
If we need to build a plan around annual increases.
It'd be great to get to the road, have money to say, oh, by the way, but, you know, we're gonna have to, I don't think.
So if we can borrow less,
That's right.
especially as interest rates continue to go up. If we can borrow less, that saves the city money in the long run, saves all of
Yeah.
us as citizens.
Protects the citizens, yeah,
In the long
absolutely.
run, because we're not paying more interest. Every 100K we don't have to borrow, saves us money.
Any further discussion on that point? Moving on to raising limit in the purchasing policy.
So, right now with the purchasing policy, and I apologize, I didn't get anything in there put on that. So for, the lowest level is anything over $2,500, they have to get, just free informal bids on anything that costs that much. Unfortunately, with the way prices are going up, it's almost every purchase, our utility departments make right now. So, if you guys will entertain changing those amounts, I will check with Williams Keepers to make sure we're not gonna cross any threshold that would get us in trouble with our audit.
I'm gonna increase theirs 2.5%, or 250% every month.
Okay.
Yeah, we went from 10 to 25. So, I mean, it's the nature of the world we are today. You keep your policies the way they were, it just gets tighter and tighter and harder. Yeah, be curious what Williams Keeper says is a recommended limit.
Yeah, it's all about oversight too, right? So,
Yeah, we've got to have some level of oversight.
yeah, we'll be fine, I think, on that part of it. It should be, we try to do what we got in general, so.
Okay. Want to George on that?
And then the landlord liability example.
Okay, I'm bringing this to your attention is every year we write off anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 in bad debts, and it's from people leaving town and leaving their utility bills. And we have no way to collect on them, and a large portion of it is renters. So there are a lot of towns and cities that have these agreements with their landlords. So we would not be the only one. I got this example from the Missouri Public Utility Alliance. They're the ones who actually created this ordinance, and I left it alone the way that it is so that you guys could read through it and see the different options that we could choose if you so want, if you want to entertain doing something like this. But basically, it would make the landlords responsible for unpaid utility bills. I know that one thing the town close to us does is unless the utility bill that was left is paid, utilities can't get turned on in a new tenant's name until that bill is paid. I don't know how you guys feel about doing something like that maybe, but I believe that it would prevent.
I don't want us to lose money, but as someone who was a transplant here, you know how hard it is to find a decent rental in this town? If we make it harder on the landlords, it might be harder to find good rentals. So I'm struggling, I'm trying to balance those two conflicting thoughts in my head.
We have a ton of people though asking and looking for rental property all the time, it seems like. So it might also entice for their personal welfare to do background checks and rent better.
One school of thought on doing something like this is that it does force landlords to do a little bit of background checking on their tenants. To make sure that they have good rental history and they're not gonna skip town. So, just food for thought. Didn't know if you guys
How
would
much
be.
are we writing off to renters, do we know?
Specifically for renters? No. I know it's a good portion of the utility bills. I could gather that information for you.
It'd be good to know what percentage of that makeup of that 15 to 25,000 per year is 85% typically is.
Chris, can I ask a question?
Should my meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry, David, can I ask a
Sure.
question? Is that gonna make people, if renters know that that's the case, are the renters just gonna stop paying their utilities and expect the landlords to pay it?
That's not our problem.
They won't
That'd
have
be
power.
landlord problem.
Yeah, but, well, okay.
They're leaving town.
That's what happens most of the
Well,
time.
but what I-
Landlords don't know.
No, what I'm saying is if somebody moves in tomorrow and finds out after this ordinance, whatever is done, is if they decide they just don't wanna pay their utilities and they live there for 2 years, you know, it takes a long time to kick somebody out if you're trying to get rid of them.
So.
Well, if they don't pay their utilities, we're gonna shut them off.
Yeah.
That's
Utilities
not
are just
gonna
shut
make-
off after, what, a month of not paying, or not even that? 30 days.
Yeah, if you don't pay by the 25th, you're getting shut off. But, so, the city would still have our deposit policy for renters, so that would go towards the final bill. Landlords also have the ability of charging first and last month's rent to help cover any
Well, they do.
liabilities that are left from damage to the house. This would just be included with it for leftover
They
utility
might
bill.
have to fix their own walls and pay the utility bill instead with their deposit. I mean, I guarantee you they get that first and last month.
Oh, yeah.
If they get that, or you don't move in, no matter what character you are. I mean, I know they get that, but, you know, I think the thing is, that the balance that we're walking in is tough for all of us. I think you make a very good point. I think we understand we want people to be able to move in and be as friendly to town as possible, but we're getting to a point that with these costs and everything growing in cost and eating at us, and our utility rates being so low for many years, it spoiled us all. I mean, a little bit, you know. The bottom line is, we're gonna have to start holding some other people accountable versus the city eating a lot of this stuff, such as our developers, that they're investing in that infrastructure like we've talked about, we're starting to do. So I think we're doing a great job of looking at that really fairly. So we're being fair to that citizen out there that needs to rent a house, and I think we just gotta continue to look down that line. It's just more of that discussion we've gotta have in this instance here, so
One of the options is that a landlord may require that the deposit for the tenants be increased by 100% or by 200%, and that utility service not be provided until the entire deposit is paid. And we can always run this by Sydney, but it's,
also that has a heavier deposit up front.
What is an electrical deposit right now? It's been a few years since I had to do one.
$100 for electric, 50 for water. It's
That's probably
very,
not.
very low. That doesn't cover the last month's bill
No.
at all.
And that's what, maybe that's an alternative way of addressing some of this is increasing those deposits.
But there are lots of towns that also have higher deposits for renters and homeowners.
I remember moving somewhere and we had a $300 deposit for our electric, more than a month's worth of utility bills. That might be another way of addressing the issue without.
It may do cooperatively, right, too. It might be that we raise ours on our front end.
Well, that's what I'm referring
And
to.
if
We raise
the
ours.
landlord goes on the hook too for some, maybe 50%, and we got the upfront, and maybe we don't charge for the whole amount, I don't know. I mean, there's ways to come to, I think, where everybody's got skin in the game. Right now, if the landlord can turn them out, and he hasn't done the background check, and he can stick some right back in there and get another first and last month rent, he or she does not have skin in the game at that point with, as far as the city's income and expense, so.
I mean, we essentially, if somebody, moves out suddenly, you got almost 2 full months worth of electric usage.
And it's really bad if it's spring and it's been winter and we have a disconnect and that's paid all winter.
That's where you really.
That's where they get you.
That's where you can't move them out for weather conditions, right, at certain temperature.
But even setting that portion of it aside, I mean, if we could, at normal to 2 months, we should probably look at 2 peak months and that should be close to our deposit. Yeah, the deposits are more. It's hard to come up with that,
I
but
agree with it.
I fear that the other side, we limit people who want to buy rental property because now they're going to have to pay the city if somebody skips out on them. And I've said, it is hard to find nice rentals in this town. Nice rentals. I'll put that out there. You can find rentals, but it's hard to find nice rentals that I want to move my family into.
And I'm almost gonna guess that the nice rentals, if you look at the demographic of who leaves their bill and who doesn't,
People are moving out of nice rentals.
Yeah.
they're using it while they're building a house or what have you, or they've opted for that versus buying a house right now. The other folks you're talking about, the not as nice rentals, let's put it that way. That's probably where you'll see the 80-20 rule, 80% of that 80%, if that's what it is, of that $15,000 to $25,000 resides. But we can check into some things. I think there's some ways to look at that, right? I think it's a good discussion. I think it's just something we gotta think about, how do we do it?
I said, 2 conflicting thoughts in my mind. We gotta shore up our losses, we can't afford to lose money as a city. I'm 100% on that. But knowing how hard it is to find a rental here,
Absolutely.
I don't want to impede people wanting to do that. Especially new people wanting to get involved in having rentals.
Okay,
I will look it up.
any as may arise?
I have one, I got an email from Don Rogers, with the fire department, and he was requesting April 3rd through the 7th, there's a fire inspector's training that he wanted to go to, and he was asking whether or not, we thought it was worth doing. He thinks it had $2,000 worth of cost, plus some other costs. So what I would like to do is forward this to you folks, to have, I just got it, I'll forward it to you guys and ladies, and you guys look at it, and we can discuss it maybe and have it on. You might look at it and send back. I think it's something we want to do. You see, we have 6 or 7 fires a year within the city limits that would qualify for a fire investigation, typically, is what he said, incidences. And he words it really well, what he would be doing in his capacity. Is it worth the city investing in that, for him to have that capability, that capacity or not? And so I'll send that around to you folks, but I want to let you know that'll be coming, and that's what that is. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, we've talked about it, so.
Yeah.
But I mean, he does he does the nursing homes and stuff now, things like that,
Mhm. Right, but this would allow him to do
a little deeper.
a little deeper and a little more, it's a training, and he's more than willing to do it, but it's coming up quick, and it's in April, so we probably ought to look at these and kind of get some ideas and have it on the agenda for next week, if,
Do we pay other people to do it?
I don't know how that works, I have no idea, do we pay for fire investigation?
I mean, the state provides, I mean,
If it gets to a point where the state will provide somebody to come down and investigate something if need be, I think law enforcement has to kind of communicate that to them.
If they feel it's suspect or whatever.
But yeah, that's how that
It'd be more of them
chain.
contacting us. We can go there and see a bunch of charred remains, but if they find an accelerator or something like that, that they've been trained to look for,
Yeah,
then we would mirror their investigation of them, basically doing a report.
so anyway, that'll be coming, I'll send it to you, just want to give you a kind of brief overview of what I've gotten, so, that's all.
I have an entry for the city MoDOT TAP agreement.
Yes, so this is for the sidewalk, plan for along Highway 22 to Howard Burton. So we had some engineers questioning our budget and said that they weren't gonna be able to touch it, basically, for, the amount budgeted. And going back and looking, the project was scoped out and priced in 2021 at those prices. Concrete and, lots of other things have gone up in cost. I did contact MoDOT today. The, grant amount is set. They will not be able to give us any more money. So we were already set to pay a little over $79,000 for our 20% match. We would have to pay that and anything over that project if we decided not to back out. And they need a decision by the 26th of this month. So I wanted to let you guys know. I just talked to her today, and so we need to discuss that and probably put it to a vote next week so that I can let them know.
Know roughly how much more money it would be?
One of the numbers, which I'm not even sure why it even got estimated, it was $50 a yard for the concrete.
Oh,
That is what's on the sheet, and we all know that that number is long gone, probably was long gone at the point of, so I'm not sure why they did it, but that was one of, and obviously the quantity of, the amount of concrete that's gonna be involved
We
in
have
that
about
is a big chunk.
4,000 linear feet of sidewalk.
5 foot wide.
Yeah, about 4
Yeah.
inches, yeah.
So, luckily we did have, I mean, we had some engineers that were very excited about it, and then they called and they're not even, they're like, we're out. We don't wanna even get involved because there is not even close to the amount of budget that you need to finish.
And I'm pretty sure when that came through, they came in on the 11th hour saying, we've got a bucket of money left over.
Mm.
We turned it down the first time, we got a bucket of money. I said, can you keep throwing a number at it? So, well, it'll take us time, we gotta have this by Friday. And I think what happened was 10% was added to it, you know, and that was how that final number that they got. But that was from
It was
the
a
year
rush
before.
to get them a.
But that was, now we've had all of this change, right, with all the price being raised, and so here we are, I mean, so. I don't know, I think it's.
Well, I will tell you that working with the budget right now, I don't think it's not an idea to move forward the project at this time.
Yeah, so, two options, basically how it was laid out was, MoDOT would obviously request that we would pay cash for the remaining over of the actual scope of the budget. And then, or phase the project, you know, do what that number gets you, and then relook at it, and apply again for, so. We discussed today, and, I mean,
But we still have $80,000 we've gotta come up with this time in the year where we're
Right.
trying to make a budget that's double-digit growth because of things completely out of our hands.
Isn't the state 79 already set aside somewhere in the budget or no?
So, we talked a little bit today, we're very comfortable with backing out for this year and looking at it, reapplying, getting an updated quote and estimate. That way, there's, I mean, this day and age to the unknown it's not something that we're interested in.
You could check to see, would that work as a trail, because the fact is, you know, it's on that side, would go down to the, I don't know, there's some, I think there's ways for us to look at, for money in the future that, to maybe help fund that, right? It shouldn't be forgotten and neglected, because the fact is, we're growing north.
Yeah.
Of 22, we've got to do something out there. He's looking at buying some property, he and Earl and the park board, to be able to put a park in. It's a great location, makes sense to do. We have to do for all the citizens, and on that side, it has to be done, but because of, we're at a point that I think we're gonna have to take care of what we got. Employees, resources, streets, infrastructure, roads, lights. We need to maintain what we got before we add anything to it at this point, until we get through the budgeting process. And I believe as we go through this budgeting process, we'll talk later about that, we're gonna have to be tight just to see where this ends up at. Because it's a growing phenomenon to me. And us, I think, all of us.
If we don't have the 79 set aside, and it's gonna be significantly more than that, I don't think we have a choice but to put a pause on it.
I agree.
And as much as I think a lot of us want it.
If the money was set aside, the phase it in would be fine, it would protect us from running over. So that's where we end. But we don't have that luxury of having that $80,000 basically already earmarked and accounted for.
Yeah.
It'd be new money to come up with in the budget we're trying to balance now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does MoDOT finalize their plans and recommendations for the locations of crosswalks and all that stuff?
We just have a very brief map of what they sent out. So, it's not very detailed, so
It's not an
to answer
easy-
that, no, I don't know.
And I was just thinking along the whole, doing it in segment idea,
Yeah.
like the cruise did, sidewalk to, the pool, been working on that. Who knows, it could be a side project, we'll do a little bit here, even if it's 100 feet at a time or something, and work on stuff.
You know, we did it there, we might have to do it out there, but
Yeah,
see.
but, yeah, we don't have solid plans. They signed off on that, so.
Well, we have to take into consideration out there in 22 though, that we're working in MoDOT right away,
Yeah,
and I
that's true, yeah.
don't know how much they'll let us do.
Okay.
But we can reapply again, and, I believe the amount, we can, it's up to $500,000 in federal grant that we are allowed to apply for, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Any other Esme rise?
Move that we adjourn?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We stand adjourned.